Howdy folks, welcome back to 15 Nautical Mile Arc. Today we're going to do a complete cold and dark tutorial in the Carenado B1900D in XP11.10 and above. And those of you who are regulars of the channel might be confused because I just did this same tutorial or a similar tutorial, but that was with the XP11.05, and so much changed with the 11.10 update that the tutorial that I had on this channel won't start your plane. Your plane won't start if you follow that tutorial. So that tutorial has been removed from the channel. This tutorial is replacing it. For those of you who found this tutorial for the first time, thank you for watching, and please subscribe and join the community we have here on this channel, and look forward to other tutorials and regular life videos. I encourage you to spend some time checking out the channel. So thank you for watching. Those who are regular subscribers, thank you for watching another tutorial video, and thank you for your continuing support. This is currently, at the time of this recording, my favorite payware aircraft for X-Plane 11.10. It's amazing. It's probably Carenado's best aircraft, if not its second best behind the DO-228, but I think it's their best aircraft. It's not representative of Carenado as a whole, in that it's leagues ahead of all their other aircraft. So if you've never thought about Carenado before, this is the way to go. Pick this thing up for yourself. Make sure you do get the X-Plane 11 version. The X-Plane 10 version is still available. Do not get that by mistake. It doesn't work very well. So that's the introduction to this aircraft. The reason why I bought it, it was the first payware aircraft I bought with another one, because my kid's very first airplane ride was in this aircraft. And I wasn't on it, unfortunately, but this was their first plane ride. So I'm like, hey, I want to get it for myself, and I've learned to fly it. I've learned to fly it well. I've learned all the systems, and that's why I enjoy this aircraft so much. The reason why this is a complete tutorial is because when I was learning to fly this aircraft myself and all the different systems, I had to take bits and pieces from different resources and put it all together, and it was still missing information. So then I found the POH, which is the Pilot Operation Handbook, or Pilot's Operating Handbook, and I took that, applied it to the sim, and then I made adjustments and compensations for the sim and for the bugs and things, which we'll talk about a little bit as they apply. So I feel this is a complete cold and dark checklist. Of course, you can give and take what you like, because the simulator is what you make of it, all those goodies. So here we go. For those of you who skipped ahead to this part of the video, this is where the tutorial starts. Those of you who watched the introduction, thank you for watching. And here we go. So before I start a video, the airplane is like this. A couple things to note if you hop inside. There is a bug normally where these two are on. Those should be off. It's a bug that they're on when you load the aircraft. Carenado is aware of it, and they should be fixing an update, I hope. Something else I like to do before I even start recording, aside from turning those off, is I will open up all the doors and have static elements turned on, and then I'll come up here and I'll actually come down here, take away the yoke, turn on external power, and turn on the lights here, get the fasten seatbelt reading light and cabin full on, and I'll turn off my map lights. And from the inside, it looks like this. We have the overhead lights, the floodlights, and the reading lights, and the emergency lights. Outside, it looks like this. Dark, but you can see the cabin lights inside if you look above those stairs. That is so cool. So this is where you see my video start most of the time, just like this. I apologize for the weather, by the way. I did turn on real world weather just because I can. And it's a very overcast day in Duluth. It has nothing to do with the tutorial. I just thought I'd mention it if you're wondering why it's so foggy and cloudy. It just adds some fun to it. So there you go. This is where I start my videos. So what I will do, or what you should do then to start this thing up, is check your weight and fuel. You can mess around with that however you like. That's part of X-Plane 11. You can do additional research on that screen if you need to. Let's come down here, open the master switch cover, turn on the battery, and then we come up here and we turn on these two lights. Like I said, they will be on when you load your aircraft until the bug is fixed, but now you would turn them on. And then we come outside and we remove our static elements and close our doors, because everybody should be boarding at this point. So let's remove the doors, static elements, and close the cockpit door as well. And then we can come back up here, turn off the emergency lights. People should be able to now get their things together in peace. Open up the autopilot panel, pull it down. Your EFIS is up there. Now this is a huge change. It used to be we did a bunch of stuff right now, but we can't. We have to start the engines now before we can continue. Gigantic difference, but this is more realistic. So we'll set the parking brake. We will come over to the side panel for switches, which, here we go, fuel switches. Turn the standby pumps on, turn the auxiliary to auto. Now this is our viewing for the tanks. This does not select the tank. It shows you what the tanks have for capacity. So auxiliary first, because this plane, as it does in real life and in the sim, uses the auxiliary tanks first. So we keep the switch on auxiliary. When it gets to 0, we switch it over to the main tank. Again, this is not selecting the tank. This is just viewing the capacity or the contents of the tank. So we keep it down to view the auxiliary tank. Since it's used first, we will now shut our wing windows because it'll get very loud. I didn't bump a fuel switch, did I? No, I did not. All right. So now we have to reset our yoke stuff because my yoke flips things around sometimes. And now we're going to start the aircraft. So right ignition, that, as they do in real life, will save the life of the engine. And then you hold down the right starter. And what's supposed to happen is when your turbine, you can see in the top center of your screen, gets to 15, you introduce the right conditioner about a third to quarter of the way until it starts to climb on its own slowly. And then what you do is when it gets to 50, you introduce the rest of the conditioner. Now, I do two things differently. I give a full conditioner right away just for the interest of time. And I only have one axis on my yoke, so it controls both conditioners. So that's a little different. If you have a fancier yoke, just move the right conditioner, obviously. When it stabilizes, now this is another gigantic change. When it stabilizes at 63, then you can introduce the generator. You cannot turn the generator on sooner than that. I used to, but your plane will shut down if you do that. So that's another gigantic change. So now we'll start the left engine. Well, you want to check for prop rotation, but I was so busy talking it obviously started rotating before I was done talking. Left igniter, hold the ignition, or auto ignition, hold the ignition. Now my conditioner is already in because of my yoke, so I'm just going to hold this until it gets to 15, and then I'll let go, and it's going to spool up all by itself. And then when it gets to 63 and stable, I will introduce or flip on the left generator. So I'm not going to make a cut. We're going to watch this. We're going to watch this together here. Go up. There's 40, 50, and stabilize at 63, and it has to be actually stable. There we go. Left generator. Close the master switch. And turn down my sim volume because my ears are getting blasted. Of course, I have control over what you hear in editing, but I am getting blasted. Okay. Much better on the ears. So everything is stable. We have prop rotation on the dials. So now we can move on to our next step, which is simply to turn off the auto igniters at this point. Just like this. Then we can turn on the avionics switch. That's a change. This is much later in the process than it used to be. And now we do the AC bus right and left. Now, another change that people are super confused about is the gyro system will say it's out of sync. Usually we get a pop-up in the top right. I'm actually not sure why I haven't gotten a pop-up yet saying your gyro? Someday I'll say that word right. The gyros are out of sync. Now, that is a very realistic thing in real life to worry about. You have to coordinate your gyro with your compass in real life often. And in X-Plane, you have to now as well, because they added that realism in 11.10. However, in this aircraft in real life, I've been told you shouldn't have to. However, the way the code is written in this aircraft, you have to sync your gyros to your compass. Now, the way you do that normally is there's a dial here on your HSI, but this airplane doesn't have one because you're not supposed to have to worry about it. But because of the sim, we have to compensate. And what you can do, if you haven't already, is go to your keyboards, go to navigation and radio, go down to indicators, and go down to your, I'll get there in a second, it's near the bottom, vacuum DC sync to magnetic north. Give it a letter on your keyboard of your choosing, because there's not a dial on the HSI. Give this command a letter on your keyboard or your yoke, So when you get that pop-up that says you're out of sync, you hit Y, and that, or in my case Y, that's what I gave it, and that will sync your HSI to your magnetic compass. You might want to rewind the tape or the video and listen to that again, because that is new in X-Plane 11. However, shouldn't apply to this plane. However, it does apply to this plane until there's an update, and it is giving a lot of confusion. If you don't do that, your autopilot will spin you in circles indefinitely. Alright, so that in the checklist then, after you turn on the avionics, after you turn on your AC bus, you hit whatever command you assign to sync your HSI to your magnetic compass. And throughout the flight, every 20 to 25 minutes, the same thing will happen. You hit whatever letter whenever that pop-up happens. Okay, so that is a huge change. Moving along now to the rest of the normal checklist, we're going to turn on our rudder boost down here. We're going to set our climate with our co-pilot, turn on the blowers and the furnace, and you can play with these temperatures all you want to. This will turn on the blowers. If you listen carefully, you'll actually hear the blowers turn on. Let's just do manual, and then let's just do decrease. Where you have this cabin temp, keep an eye on that. It'll climb to 120 if you're not paying attention. Just depends how much realism you want, I guess. Alright, so next thing I do is I'll enter my flight plan in the GPS. So this is where you hit flight plan. You put in your flight plan, etc., etc. There are tons of tutorials on how to do this, so I'm not going to go over this. Just keep in mind, this is when you would do your flight plan. This is when you would tune if you're flying slant alpha, your first radios, your first VORs, you would tune them now. And if you're using GPS, push CDI to GPS after your flight plan. Simple as that, alright? Moving along, we want to set a barometer now. So what we need to do is, if we hit M on our keyboard, it'll bring up the map. You can click on the airport and click on details, and it'll give you your altimeter, 29902. I do have real world weather, but it's still 29902 at this moment. So let's move this to 29902 like so. Come back over here, test our overspeed, and then test our stall, and then put the yoke back in. So now we are going to test the lights, which I think is this preset. Here we go. This will test our caution and warning lights, make sure everything is working, and then put them out like so. And now cabin pressure. This is a contested topic in the sim. First we're going to do is open the bleed valves. That doesn't change. This stuff is interesting because apparently the cabin control and the rate of climb control are not the real actual controls in this aircraft. They're taken from a different aircraft, but we will work with them as we can. So what is supposed to happen with this thing is there's supposed to be a plastic cover over the opening that's clear with a line in the middle so you know what you're pointing at. You just have to imagine there's a line in the middle. What you do is you select this to the inner number of your cruise plus 1,000 feet. So I normally cruise at 16,000, so I will adjust this so the center is at 17,000, which is 1,000 above my cruise. That's all you do with that dial. This dial, however, is difficult to control because it's only supposed to spin, according to real pilots, about 3/4 way around, but this spins like twice around. This is your vertical climb. If you jump up to here, nope, this one, that controls the cabin alt here. Okay, so when the little arrow gets to the red, you need to come down here and spin it back counterclockwise. So what I do is I start all the way clockwise, and then I keep an eye on this little shorter arrow. When it gets too close to the red, I come back and I start dialing this back until the arrow here, the little one, is in the green. Now, there's a bug. If we go up to our cautions and warnings, what is supposed to happen if I push this, the second one in from the right on the top, which you can't see, but it's right here, if that arrow, that little arrow goes into the red, that is supposed to light up. Cabin differential high. But there's a bug. Instead, your right fuel pressure low lights up instead. So I am going to submit a bug report to Carenado and say, hey, the wrong warning lights up when your cabin pressure is out of control. So if that happens to you, where you get the fuel pressure light, it's actually your cabin differential, which means you have to come down here and spin this knob until the arrow gets back in the green which then your lights up here will go out. Okay, that is a bug. I hope it gets fixed soon. I'm going to submit a bug report because no one has brought it up yet. So hopefully by the time this thing's updated, that'll be taken care of as well. So that is your cabin pressure. You can set it, forget it. If you don't have phobia or whatever it's called turned on, you don't even need to worry about it. But again, this is a complete tutorial. Take what you want from it, ignore the other stuff. Moving along though, you have to auto arm your auto feather. You have to do that. You have to close your generator ties. You have to turn prop sync on. And at this point then, we would do our autopilot. So if we want to cruise at like 16,000, or you want to step it up to 8 to 10 to 12, whatever you want to do, set your cruise there. You can pull up your autopilot panel, turn on heading, climb, whatever you want your climb rate to be. Very simple autopilot. This is how I usually do it. I'll set my altitude, push heading, because I'm going to take off with the heading bug, and then nav for GPS later, and then climb, and then set my climb rate. Usually 2200, between 18 and 2200. Alright, that's what I got to do, set the autopilot. So then the next thing we do is we're going to come back down here and turn on our anti-ice, prop ice, stall warning horn, Pytod heats, and if you want to get into engine anti-ice, that would be there. I'm not using it today though. If you want to get into your fuel venting, it's there. I'm not using it at the moment. And then there's your brake de-ice and your altimeter static. I think that says, yes it does. So a few switches I don't use, but they're there, and you use them when you need to use them. You can do a whole separate research on when to use them and things, but that's where they are. And then the next thing we do is we turn off external power, which only leaves 2 lights on. The tires are closed and auto feather is off, and there you go. So something else you can do in XP11 version is you can turn on your TCAS right here. Then we're going to turn on our taxi lights and get ready, and turn on our nav lights as well, and get ready to taxi out of here. So I am going to move my props to taxi, and they'll change pitch. You can hear the difference, right? I'm going to put my yoke back into at this point. So then I'm going to come back out here, one set of flaps down, let go of the parking brake, and I'm not even sure where we're taxiing to. We're just going to taxi. Come on, here we go. If we're getting stuck, you can move your props forward a little bit more, but then bring the throttle back, or it's going to take off in a hurry. Where are we going? Let's just go out this way. We don't need much runway. I didn't check the weather. Well, I did check the weather for altimeter. I didn't check my wind. I don't really care. It's not part of this video. We're just going to take off right here, just so you can see how this works. So when I get to my hold short line, if I can get there without... Oh, there is a lot of wind. It's blowing me around at this slow speed. Let's just stop right here, set the parking brake. What I do then before I pull onto the runway is I turn on my landing lights, turn off my taxi lights, turn on my strobes to flight, and then I'll turn off my cabin flood, turn off my overhead, and I'll usually dim my avionics a little bit. That's those blue lights. That's a little too dim for the daytime. Blue lights and some of these other gauges. Just like so. That's what I like to do. Confirm that the flaps are down one level. There they are. And we will then trim for takeoff, which is about there, just below center. And now we will taxi onto the runway itself. And we're going to just go off to the left here. Of course, this is not the way you're supposed to taxi and take off from an airplane, but that's a whole nother deal. I just want to show you how to start this plane and get it in the air. That is the point of this, so let's just taxi out here. And we're going to stop one last time and do a couple things here. There we go, line up. Looks like we're going to go off the edge of the earth here. Let's line up straighter though. There we go. Set the parking brake, pull up our autopilot, push the heading bug. And what that did down here, if you didn't notice, is it lined up our heading bug with our current heading, so we know we're ready to go. Then before we take off, we'll come down here and we will start our stopwatch. What's going on? Come on, there we go. Start our stopwatch. And you know it's working because our lapse time lights up. And we will move props all the way forward. And we will hold the brakes while we spool up. You don't have to, just depends on length of your runway. You can take off full power, but you have to manage your engines within 5 minutes, and we will talk about that before we stop the tutorial. Now I only have one set of flaps, so I'm going to let this get quite a bit of speed before I rotate here. Alright, we're going to rotate. There we go. Gentle, gear up, flaps up, autopilot engaged, and I'm hands-free. That's it. So then what I would do is I will look around, and if I am using GPS, I would use the heading bug to turn us towards our GPS path, and then I would switch to nav on the autopilot once we're lined up. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. Last thing we need to do though for this tutorial is you have to manage our engines, so our torque and props have to be in the green, and that'll automatically put everything else in the green. So right now I'm bringing my throttle back for the torque, and the props back, and then throttle back even more because your torque goes up and your props go down. That's just how it works in a turbo prop. So there we go. We have green, 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 green. Fuel flow is fine, and those are always in the green. So now we're climbing out, gears up, flaps are up, engines have been managed, autopilot is engaged. The next thing you would do is you would turn off your landing lights at 10,000 feet. Resume navigation based on your GPS, your VORs, ATC, whatever you want to do. But we are all set. That is all there is to it. If you want to look up specifics for your cruise RPMs and all that stuff, be my guest. That's not part of the startup process. So the tutorial is going to end here in a moment. I just want to hop back here, show you what the cabin looks like then when it's set up. The only lights that are on are the reading lights. That's it. And that's what we did up here with our cabin flood overhead and all this stuff. That's what all that thing was, remember, at the stop line of the run before the runway. That's what all that did. Let's set up the cabin. Where's my GoPro view? There it is. So there you go. We are all set. And enjoy. Have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And enjoy flying the Carenado B1900D. With that being said, I'll catch you for another video soon.